On October 1st, the outgoing NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg will be succeeded by former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte.
However, it remains unclear who will assume the position of NATO's Deputy Secretary General. Joining us to talk about the issue is Bartłomiej Kot, Program Director, Warsaw Security Forum. Good evening, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good evening.
So, an important meeting ahead of NATO leaders' 75th anniversary. We know that Rutte will take over in the fall. What about Deputy Secretary General? Is there a chance that a Pole will get this role?
Of course, there's always a chance that the Pole would take this role, given the fact that actually there is not a Polish person represented in this in the highest echelon of jobs in within the alliance. So there is, of course, not only a reason, but there should actually be also an ask from the Polish side to plead for this position, whether that will be the Deputy Secretary General of NATO, or previously there were some rumors about ASGs, so Assistant Secretary Generals, but we know at this point that this is not on the table anymore.
Now, back in April, Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, he said that, of course, he will support Mark Rutte, but at the same time, we believe that our region is underrepresented in both the alliance and the EU. And also, he mentioned UN, in general, UN system. Now, who makes this decision? If we are going to propose the candidates, who is going to make an ultimate decision?
Well, in the end, it is the decision that is being made between the heads of states, and of course, the final say, someone would say, has the US, because this is, you know, the most important ally. Let me put it that way. And given the fact that there is also a political wave here, then the US would finally also have some say when it comes to the who will take the position, who takes the position when it comes to the top jobs in NATO. But you also have to take into account one thing. There is a lot of different positions being right now in a deck of cards, let me put it that way. That was also the case within the European Union. Of course, the two organizations are not linked to each other directly, but when the positions are being discussed, this is also, of course, the issue. Those are the same people who meet at those meetings and take the decision. So when they decide about the, let's say, top echelons of the jobs within the EU, they are also taking into account what else could be given to each of the countries within NATO, etc.
Now, would you agree with Minister Sikorski that our region, CEE region, is underrepresented?
Yes, I would. Certainly, I would. The question is, of course, whether that will be a Polish candidate that takes over this position that is right now occupied by a Romanian, well, politician, civil servant, you may call it that way. So, of course, Poland has some very important things to bring to the table. We spent money on military and defense. We are the credible ally. We have proven throughout the years that not only the other allies but also the US, of course, can count on us. So there is a lot of arguments on our side. The question is, of course, in the end, whether that would be also a position that would be proposed, for example, to a female candidate. We are talking right now mainly in Poland. The rumor has it that it would be rather a the Polish candidate would be rather a male candidate. So this, of course, also is something which we would have to take into account.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see who succeeds Mircea Joanna. Well, probably until next week, or perhaps even a little longer, right? I mean, what are some of the other key issues that will be covered by NATO leaders during the summit?
Of course, there is the issue of Ukraine. Everyone is focused on this subject. We know right now that the perspective of membership to Ukraine, of course, it is a subject that will be discussed, but I wouldn't bet on any bold statements in that regard. This is because of some reservations from the top countries that would be concerned, not only the US but also Germany, for example. But certainly the discussion will be about preserving the long-term support to Ukraine, also in terms of the financial aspect of it. And in a sense, making decisions that will be, let me put it that way, time-proofing certain issues, so that the decisions are being taken in advance, because there are a lot of different changes that may happen in Europe, in the US, in many different countries that are, of course, interested. Let me put it that way.
Right, but
Go ahead.
well, some say actually that an invitation will be extended to Ukraine to join NATO. It doesn't, of course, mean that it will violate Article 5. Do you think it's likely?
I keep my fingers crossed for that, because this is, of course, also in the interest of Poland. We are lobbying for that. We are advocating for that. But you know, a second ago you had some expression from Chancellor Scholz when he was asking the Bundestag what is his stance when it comes to the possible engagement of Germany in this conflict, and those are very bold statements. In a sense, they're also very calming down when it comes to the German audience, etc., etc. So I wouldn't expect that the statements that will be undertaken during the summit will be some groundbreaking information or some groundbreaking announcements when it comes to the future of Ukraine within NATO.
Now, speaking of changes, you mentioned many changes could happen around the world and also in the United States. I mean, there are going to be elections. Today we found out that NATO allies have agreed to fund military aid for Ukraine with 40 million euros. Now, if Donald Trump, which is likely he might win the elections, do you think he might actually stop this aid pouring to Ukraine? What do you think will happen with this aid next year?
Oh, in my opinion, my very humble opinion, Trump is a businessman. Of course, it's hard to predict what will be his actions when he or if he comes to power once again. There are some rumors related to the fact right now some policies being already designed for his possible second presidency. Those are very, very realistic in a sense when it comes that they refer to some I would say 19th century way of thinking about the international relations, very oriented on the spheres of influence way of thinking proposals. But the truth is that Trump may very well also take the credit of saving NATO and, in a sense, winning this war for the collective West. So I wouldn't be that hard and harsh on Trump right now, because his biggest advantage and disadvantage at the same time, he's totally unpredictable, and he's as much unpredictable to us as he would be to Putin. That's an issue with him.
Right, I mean, 43 billion is a significant amount, so let's hope that this will come to fruition. But I mean, we've been covering our region, of course, but I was wondering, anything on the Indo-Pacific, anything on China in terms of security? Do you think that this could be one of the topics?
Certainly, this will be one of the topics. There is a strong interest from the US, of course, to put more interest into those subjects and to bring NATO allies to those issues. Of course, these elements of the foreign policy that are intertwined, because if we are fighting right now in Ukraine, at least politically speaking, for the preservation of the internationally recognized borders, this is the same principle that applies, of course, to the issue of Taiwan, if anything happens there, and China's hostile attitude towards Taiwan is based on the same reasoning as we have right now here in our part of Europe. It is a necessity, I would say, on our side also to show to the US that we care as much about their interest there as we care about their interests here, because this is also a way of showing that we are a credible ally, whatever or wherever the interests of the US as our partner are discussed. But at the same time, there is a lot of course, reservation as well, I would put it that way, from other allies saying that, look, NATO is not an alliance that should be working on Indo-Pacific. We are here, north part of Atlantic. This is what is written in the treaty. This is what we should care about. One thing, though, the interest in China and the impact of Chinese hostile actions on security of the US and the collective West, I would put it that way, it is actually a completely bipartisan issue in the US. So if you are speaking boldly and to the ears of Americans that we care about the issue of Taiwan, that you are speaking absolutely bipartisan, which is also, in a sense, speaking to the Trump way of thinking about the world and the interests of the US.
Well, like you said, I mean, politics are all intertwined, so whatever happens there might affect us sooner or later. Bartłomiej Kot, Program Director at Warsaw Security Forum, was our guest, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And right now we're going to take a short break.
That's right.
Let's take a look at the weather report.